Silence! You are behaving like chickens in a basket. Remember who you are. You are weak tricks, undefeated. We will win.
The men are unsure, Legate. Especially now that Aquilinus left us. Many are having second thoughts.
No one will come after you. But know you will die as cowards.
We must be quick and deadly. The Legion must move in and take control of the city. She's certainly a valuable hostage. We should solve that problem before we proceed.
We will need to move quickly if we want to grab your sister. A handful of us could do that. I believe this to be a matter of life and death. For Skywala is undoubtedly holding her hostage right now.
I understand. I'll do my best, but...
But you surely realize your sister's death would simplify matters greatly.
This will be big mess anyway. One more complication is not such big deal.
We will need to send a small group to Skywala's villa, regardless. We will capture him and liberate your sister if possible. With that out of the way, we can focus our attention on Lurko, our primary target.
He's not the only problem. We'll need to control public opinion. Eliminating the dictator will not be enough. We must take care of the Pontifex Maximus as well. As the religious leader of Rome, he has the power to mobilize people against us.
We can be very convincing.
It's a good plan. Once Cotter is out of the way, there is no need to worry about the opposition he might drum up against us.
Once we're ready, we'll need to secure the Senate with overwhelming force and neutralize Vitellius Lurko. Agreed. This will never be over as long as he is at large.
It is very likely that the Senate will be full of senators. Vitellius Lurko might use them to shield himself. Keep in mind, we may also encounter ordinary citizens trying to protect the Senate against our assault.
Perception is crucial. They will not see him hiding behind them. They will only see us cutting them down.
I believe there's not much else to discuss. The longer we wait, the more we risk failure.
I expect nothing but surprises.
You don't enter the arena expecting to lose. We will win, as always.
I believe there's only one way to find out.
The risk is great. But if we win, to rule all of Rome, that would make it all worthwhile.
As you command.
Dare you! Don't you know who I am? Hey, who's this? Hercules! Kill them too!
Enough of this! Stop!
What did you think I was doing? She is my wife. Of course I've been protecting her.
Forgive my husband's tone. We thank you for your timely assistance, brother. I don't understand why these lictors were trying to arrest me.
They were not lictors. They were men of Legio Ferrata, and that's very bad news for us.
You're doing what? Have you finally lost your mind? Oh, may Minerva bring your sense back. You have started a civil war.
Your brother is right, Liliana. This probably was the only way to stop Webius. I must get Liliana and the children to safety, but my brother will not stop. You understand? Please do not kill him. For all the evil he's done, Webius is still my blood. Besides, living in the shadow of his own failure is a fate worse than death for him. You are an exemplar of Roman virtues. I shall never forget this. Wale.
I should have expected this, you arrogant bastard of a fallen family. What about all the things you have done? Are you willing to burn down the Republic? At least he respected our established traditions. All this bloodshed. And for what? Then I will gladly shed mine to preserve that greatness. Let's finish this.
Salve, Cineros. What a pleasant surprise. I expected your Dominus to send an assassin. I would disagree. If the virtuous represent an obstacle to those of lesser virtue, surely it must be clear that the less virtuous would benefit from the death of my dear friend Cato.
Are you trying to get me killed?
I'm merely stating the obvious, leaving no room for a nasty surprise. Old Cineros here might be a healer, but those who deliver health also have the ability to withhold it.
Very well. I am intrigued. Make your case. Such a circumstance is hypothetical. My principles define me as a citizen. In the unlikely scenario that I have to break those principles, then I guess I'd be a broken man. Perhaps I could offer my sympathies to such a broken person. However, I would be under no obligation to support them. Loyalty is a virtue, but loyalty to a dishonest person may be the same as being dishonest, or worse. You mean to say that ends justify the means? That could only be true if you consider actions in isolation. Each wrong action can lead to unexpected harm no matter what end your goal is. A curious stance, proposing one must be able to recognize lesser and greater wrongs. Very few people can claim to be enlightened. But I guess your Dominus is an enlightened person. He must have been forced to take the actions he did. Very well, I shall support him.
Well, that is a great relief. I will stand by Cato's decision as well, of course. If there is any doubt left in your mind, my friend, remember, as long as we are alive, we can work hard on the Senate floor to defend and preserve the Republic.
Stay back, Bestia Tabat. You are surrounded by my best gladiator archers. You're bluffing. I paid them handsomely. Some people are foolish indeed to fight for the losing side. All right, I'll humor you. Let's say you have me outnumbered. The fact that we're still talking means I have something you want. Let's hear what you have to say. Even if Lurko dies, those who kill him will be branded criminals. I have nothing to gain by supporting you and yours. You're so naive. Friends only get you killed, and I am alive, aren't I? Handsomely. My fee can be very handsome indeed. Can your Legatus part with, say, 10,000 denarii? Unexpected? Very well. I shall honor this contract, unless someone pays me more. Assassins! Guard yourself, Imperator!
You useless bastard. She has a point. She could have killed you all. Clearly it's something else she wants. My patience is wearing thin. State your business or leave. I am more than aware of your allegations. It is the truth that interests me. I stand with law and order. You have defied the Senate. The consequences should be clear to your Legatus, and if not, my legions will make it clear when they arrive. The desperate words of a criminal.
Senator!
Respect the sanctity of the Senate. Leave now or you will regret it.
To Tartarus with this! I didn't expect armed soldiers! I'm getting out of here!
You do that. I'll take care of this. We've been waiting for you. I hoped you wouldn't come. Foolishly, perhaps. Whatever's necessary. You have already crossed the first line. I will not let you cross the last. I do remember what you did for me, and I'm grateful for that. Maybe you're right. But what you're doing here now, it's not right. Not even your reason for doing it is right. I have to stop you. Perhaps you're right. I don't know anymore.
His confidence is wavering. Keep pushing him. I think he can be convinced.
Why did you, Calida? Why did you go along with this? Rome is your home too.
That's precisely why I'm here. You know how much I had to go through to find my place in this republic. We're going to change things for the better.
How can you be so certain? Is it even possible that anything good could come from this chaos?
Don't let his silver tongue talk you into abandoning your principles, Centurio. Remember who you are, what you stand for. We will defend the Republic together.
The Republic? I heard you somehow convinced Cato and Cicero to support you. Or at least to get out of your way. Perhaps there is hope for the Republic yet then. Cato has always been a good judge of character. If I'm still uncertain, perhaps I should look to him for guidance. Very well. I shall fight with you. But know this. The moment you turn into a tyrant, I will be the first to stop you.
Never trust a traitor, my father used to say. This will not change anything, you know. Just give up. I will let your friends go, and grant you a merciful death. You dare leave your consul's side? Cowards! Sight for sore eyes. Where's your family, traitor?
Your hubris has a nemesis for our time.
You would betray your own pride for the sake of a whore! Let us cleanse this bloodline.
Lie down for a bit.
You've been dreaming of this since the day your father died. You think, of all the things a murderer might say to his victim, I agree. I didn't see it coming. Always thought you were a bit of a coward. Turns out I was wrong. It seems the part I intended my role to be in molding the first Emperor of Rome. When I am dead, your reign will begin.
Salve, Webius. I don't have much to say. Let me repay you for manipulating me and exploiting me your whole life.
Tiberius, you fool. You weakling. And now, you'll do the dirty deeds of...
Up!
It's finally over. It almost seems unreal. The beginning of what?
You have violated every single rule we set out to protect in the first place. You have killed Romans. Senators even.
Kaiso was right. You do sound like Lurko.
We must submit ourselves to the judgment of the Senate, as we discussed. Only then can we begin to undo some of the damage we have caused.
Are you stupid? Did you hit your head in battle? We will all be killed.
Not all of us. He will probably be condemned to death indeed, but we will not be punished as harshly.
We should not get punished at all. We should take over Rome and live like kings.
The Anira is right. Surrender will only lead to execution.
But, Magister, surely morals dictate that he should surrender. Doing anything else would be immoral, and thus make him a lesser man.
He is like my own child. He would be a lesser man, but a man who is alive.
They will not just let us go. We all attacked.
Well, I certainly do not want to be executed.
May I remind you what you have just said about the expected behavior of a moral individual?
I don't consider myself a particularly moral man yet.
I don't care about the philosophy of it. If you stay here, more people will die and the chaos will never end. We don't have to turn ourselves in if you're afraid of the consequences. I'm sure Cleopatra will protect you if you flee to Egypt. Don't do this. I'm warning you. I did not help you stop a would-be king only to replace him with another.
My debt to you is repaid. I certainly don't owe you any support if you try to overthrow the Republic. It's clear there is no changing your mind. Perhaps this was your goal all along. Well then, this is goodbye.
For what it's worth, I hope you rule the city well. Wale.
Wale, my friends.
Take care of him, Tabat.
You are always welcome here. If you change your mind,
So it was that the Republic of Rome, which had long rested on an unsteady foundation, was finally torn to the ground. From the rubble rose a new, strong empire. Though the institution of the Senate was maintained for centuries to come, all power was stripped from it and granted almost in full to the new ruler of Rome. From lost scion to legionarius to legatus, and finally to emperor. The first citizen of Rome had broken with all traditions and betrayed the faith of many during his meteoric rise to power. But as much as those who once held power now loathed their new ruler, he was greatly beloved by the people of Rome, for whom life universally improved under his rule. As he built Rome up from a regional power to an empire spanning the continent, he came to be revered almost like a god. Old Cineros, the emperor's most beloved servus. Though he was free, he would not leave the side of his dominus until the day he died. He lived many more years in luxury and leisure, with access to the finest works of philosophy, visited by great scholars from near and far. Freed of his domestic duties, he even found the time to author a great work of his own, a treatise on the topic of regret and forgiveness. Though its contents are lost to time, we must imagine that its completion brought him great satisfaction. Caeso left Rome with Lucia and their daughter. They traveled to Africa, as Caeso remembered the warm nights and the lush Nile Delta fondly. Here they found a place to settle and made a peaceful home for their family. Though their relationship was distant at first, their devotion to their child drew them together, and their affection for each other grew stronger through the years. To his surprise, Caeso took well to fatherhood, and soon he and Lucia had many more children. Despite her redemption in the eyes of the law, Callida at first left Rome to travel. Exhausted from her role in bringing about the fall of the Republic, she needed time away to clear her mind and ground herself again. Eventually, she returned to settle down in Rome, where her connection to its new dictator made her more safe and free to live her life on her own terms than she had ever been before. Still, she remained distant from her old friends, and she never again got involved in politics nor warfare. Bestia stayed by the side of the Emperor of Rome, becoming the leader of a new imperial guard. Uncompromisingly loyal, he was an enforcer as much as he was a protector, and eventually he became one of the most feared men in the Empire. As soon as things had quieted down, Bestia traveled to Africa once more to look for his sister. He did find her and bring her home, and she lived happily there for the rest of her life. Once everything had settled down, Deianira returned to her homelands in Scythia, where she reconnected with her family. She brought some of them with her back to Rome, where they settled into a life of luxury. Though they would never feel quite at home in the city, they found that it was much easier to be outsiders together than alone. Deianira always remained loyal to her friends. Vitellius Scaevola left Roman politics and moved to Upper Latium with his wife Lewiana, where they raised their children together in peace. Cato withdrew from the Senate sometime during Rome's transition from Republic to empire. The shift in the power balance that he had helped facilitate never sat well with him, and his disappointment in himself haunted him for the rest of his life. He never again entered politics, but nor did he ever join any of the early attempts to overthrow the new dictator. It seemed Cato's convictions had been taken from him. Cicero remained in the Senate, even after the institution had become a mere shell of what it once was. He saw his purpose as the voice of dissent, the most prominent leader of the opposition to Rome's new ruler. Though it could be argued that he was unsuccessful in saving or restoring the Republic, there is little doubt that his work brought about a more just empire. With Mithridates dead and his sons lacking his ability to rule, Pontus was soon annexed by Rome. The region never again rose to prominence. With Zenobia in charge of Musia, it became once more a peaceful part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. With her focus on trade and strong ties to the neighboring regions, her people enjoyed a period of great prosperity. Grateful for the mercy he had been shown, and no longer with Mithridates to tempt his greed, Damianos quickly resumed political leadership of Thracia. Here, the gladiator rebellion that had started in his school was threatening to spiral out of control. Thanks to Damianos, the gladiators were pacified quickly, and without inordinate bloodshed. Lunia's death sent Nazarmanes spiraling into a fractious conflict as greedy elders from minor tribes attempted to fill the void her passing had left behind. Though Queen Cleopatra attempted to bring the region under control, her attentions were too divided, the conflict too great for her to manage. Rome was forced to send more legions to enforce peace and stability with an iron fist. Though Africa Proconsularis eventually saw peace again, the traditions and culture of the Berber population were lost forever. Queen Cleopatra Philopator was, from the day of her coronation, a greatly beloved Queen of Egypt. Revered and admired by the population, she spent many of her days traveling up and down the Nile to visit her subjects and address their troubles and concerns. Under her rule, Egypt remained a powerful and prosperous nation and a strong ally of Rome. The fruits of the Nile flowed freely to the people of the Republic. After traveling all across Africa for many years, going wherever her instincts took her, Rhea eventually returned to Memphis and to the service of Tener at the Temple of Ubasti. When her mentor passed away, Rhea naturally assumed the mantle as High Priestess of the Cat Goddess. Though the old faith was dwindling, she was greatly beloved by many, and her temple prospered, always home to many, many, many cats. With Dioteuchus once more assuming rulership of the Aedui, the tribe maintained a strong alliance with Rome, and through it, they greatly prospered. With the aid of the Aedui, Gallia slowly unified under Roman rule, and civilization soon began to creep into those lands in the form of paved roads, aqueducts, and fortified Roman towns. In his old age, did the Druid ever regret hastening the absorption and suppression of his own faith and culture? We will never know. The once proud and strong Arverni were greatly reduced by the defeat of Vercingetorix, but his survival gave them hope. His will to make war upon Rome had been crushed, but he remained a strong figure of leadership among his people, even despite his failures. With his guidance, the tribes of Gallia remained unified and somewhat at peace, and vestiges of their culture and traditions survived their gradual subjugation under Rome. In this work, I have done my best to recount the history of this fascinating period, truthfully and accurately. As I have scoured the sources and spoken to many who claimed to have heard the story from someone who was there at the time, one thing that has stood out to me is the pivotal moments along the way where our story could have turned out very differently. Could the Republic have continued without an emperor? I believe so. if the Legatus had been willing to make the necessary sacrifices. But it is clear that the personal cost would have been great, as would the risk to the highly troubled Republic in the absence of leadership. In many ways, Rome was already an empire in want of an emperor. One should always take care when second-guessing historical figures with the benefit of hindsight. Here in the present, there will never truly be a way for you to know how you might have acted if you had lived in the past. Nor can you ever be certain how history will remember you.
That is still immoral, for you would be avoiding judgment. But I'd feel glad if that happens. Therefore, I am a lesser man. But I feel good about being one.
I will see you out of Rome safely, but I cannot follow. For the first time in my life, the city finally accepts me, thanks to you. Wale, my friend. It's been a fun ride.
It has been glorious.
I'll make the arrangements, Domine. As you wish. She will be in good hands.
There are some who say it was a sudden change of heart that turned a would-be tyrant from his throne. Most accept the common story. A man pushed to his very limit by the machinations of a corrupt consul. A republic on the brink of becoming an empire, vulnerable to the ambitions of unscrupulous men. A desperate, unlawful action that saved the republic at the cost of one man's career and reputation. Although in one sense the Legatus never returned to Rome, in another, greater sense, he never left. With his earth-shaking actions, he had set Rome upon a course that would guide it through history for centuries to come. It is said that he retired to a palatial estate in Egypt, overlooking the lush banks of the Nile. He had turned his back on the republic that he had saved, but he became instead a close and trusted advisor to Queen Cleopatra, under whose rule Egypt soon regained its independence and sovereignty from Rome. As his dominus left Rome in exile, old Cineros chose to stay behind. There was just enough time for the Servus to get the manumission he had been promised, before he was left to his own devices. For a time, he stayed with Liwiana at her invitation, until he had earned enough denarii as a teacher of Greek to get a small place of his own. He continued to teach her children, but this time in exchange for payment. Cineros still had many powerful and influential friends in the city, and thanks to them he enjoyed access to well-stocked libraries and well-educated conversation. Ultimately, what gave Cineros peace was the knowledge that he had long since unburdened himself with the guilt of the mistakes of his youth. In his final days, he was able to return to Greece at last, and died there, satisfied. When his friends left Rome, Caeso stayed behind in the city to settle down with Lucia and their daughter. Though their relationship was distant at first, the shared love they felt for their daughter soon brought them close, and eventually they had more children together. To his surprise, Caeso took well to the quiet life and to fatherhood. And on the few occasions when he did feel that old lust for adventure bubble back to the surface, he would leave Rome for a time and visit his friends in exile, who were always glad to see him. Callida had stood by her companions through thick and thin, but now it was time for her to stand by herself. As they left Rome, she stayed behind and settled down in the city that had once rejected her. Now, for the first time ever, she felt at home there. Though many still looked askance at her for what they perceived as her unwomanly pursuits, she had learned to disregard their judgment, and she had plenty of friends in the city who now respected her for who she was and what she had achieved. Bestia returned to Africa to look for his sister again. Eventually, he did find her, and together they returned to Mauritania, where they settled down in an idyllic village and started new families of their own. In this new, quiet life, Bestia learned the true value of happiness. Deianira followed her friend into exile. Rome had never quite lived up to her expectations, and she was glad to leave it behind. Eventually, she returned to her homelands of Scythia, where she reconnected with her family, but she always remained in contact with her friends, visiting frequently with new stories and exotic spices from distant lands. Vitellius Scaevola left Roman politics and moved to Upper Latium with his wife Liviana, where they raised their children together in peace. Cato remained an important figure in Roman politics, grudgingly respected even by those among the population who desired change. He remained a defender of the patrician class, a shield against the pandering and opportunism of more populist voices. He himself was elected consul twice throughout his life, and his years in the position were generally favorably regarded. Cicero served one more year as consul before his retirement. In his old days, he lived a quiet life on a farm in Sicily, where he was greatly beloved by the people for his time as quaestor. He continued to write many books on politics and law. With Mithridates dead and his sons lacking his ability to rule, Pontus was soon annexed by Rome. The region never again rose to prominence. With Zenobia in charge of Mysia, it became once more a peaceful part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. With her focus on trade and strong ties to the neighboring regions, her people enjoyed a period of great prosperity. Grateful for the mercy he had been shown, and no longer with Mithridates to tempt his greed, Damianos quickly resumed political leadership of Thracia. Here, the gladiator rebellion that had started in his school was threatening to spiral out of control. Thanks to Damianos, the gladiators were pacified quickly, and without inordinate bloodshed. Lunia's death sent Nazarmanes spiraling into a fractious conflict, as greedy elders from minor tribes attempted to fill the void her passing had left behind. Though Queen Cleopatra attempted to bring the region under control, her attentions were too divided, the conflict too great for her to manage. Rome was forced to send more legions to enforce peace and stability with an iron fist. Though Africa Proconsularis eventually saw peace again, the traditions and culture of the Berber population were lost forever. Queen Cleopatra Philopator was, from the day of her coronation, a greatly beloved queen of Egypt. Revered and admired by the population, she spent many of her days traveling up and down the Nile to visit her subjects and address their troubles and concerns. In a surprisingly humble ceremony, she married the exiled savior of Rome and installed him as co-ruler. Though he never attained the same level of reverence among the people as Cleopatra, he had great influence on her government, and together they gave birth to a proud dynasty. Under her rule, Egypt remained a powerful and prosperous nation and a strong ally of Rome. The fruits of the Nile flowed freely to the people of the Republic. After traveling all across Africa for many years, going wherever her instincts took her, Rhea eventually returned to Memphis and to the service of Tener at the Temple of Ubasti. When her mentor passed away, Rhea naturally assumed the mantle as High Priestess of the Cat Goddess. Though the old faith was dwindling, she was greatly beloved by many, and her temple prospered, always home to many cats. With Duatiacus once more assuming rulership of the Aedui, the tribe maintained a strong alliance with Rome, and through it, they greatly prospered. With the aid of the Aedui, Gallia slowly unified under Roman rule, and civilization soon began to creep into those lands in the form of paved roads, aqueducts, and fortified Roman towns. In his old age, did the Druid ever regret hastening the absorption and suppression of his own faith and culture? We will never know. The once proud and strong Arverni were greatly reduced by the defeat of Vercingetorix, but his survival gave them hope. His will to make war upon Rome had been crushed, but he remained a strong figure of leadership among his people, even despite his failures. With his guidance, the tribes of Gallia remained unified and somewhat at peace, and vestiges of their culture and traditions survived their gradual subjugation under Rome. In this work, I have done my best to recount the history of this fascinating period, truthfully and accurately. As I have scoured the sources and spoken to many who claimed to have heard the story from someone who was there at the time, one thing that has stood out to me is the pivotal moments along the way where our story could have turned out very differently. Might the Legatus and his friends have remained in Rome to influence its politics in the years to come? Certainly, when Legio Victrix crossed the Rubicon, the only way to remain in Rome would have been as its emperor. But perhaps if a different decision had been made on that fateful bridge, a more peaceful resolution would have been possible. One should always take care when second-guessing historical figures with the benefit of hindsight. Here in the present, there will never truly be a way for you to know how you might have acted if you had lived in the past. Nor can you ever be certain how history will remember you.